Hello, I'm Susan Tatem, and I am so happy to announce that we have rebranded from Puzzled Parents Podcast to Puzzled Parents Unlocked. Thank you so much for your patience during this transition, and I really look forward to seeing you on our YouTube channel, Puzzled Parents Unlocked. So we're very excited today to have Miss Vicki with us. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on as our guest.
Not a
Why don't you
problem.
introduce yourself a little bit and tell us a little bit about what it is you do and what brings you here today?
Sure. Vicki Cochran, Cochran IEP Consultings. I live outside of Boston in Massachusetts, United States. My mission is really to ensure that the current IEP of tweens and teens really serve the needs of future goals. So my specialization is 12 to 20, ages 12 to 22, anywhere in the academic or neurodivergent or any other disability world. And I really look at the current IEP or the current 504 and make sure that it's actually meeting your needs and answer questions to the families.
Excellent. What you're doing is so needed, and I love how we talked about it kind of overlaps with what Bright Path for Autism does, which is where we kind of carry it from school and the transition into adulthood and making sure that everything's in place there and it's functional and they can be as independent as possible. So I really love what you're doing.
My pleasure. I will also say I'm a little bit of a different perspective. I'm a teacher, full-time teacher in transition, so professional. I am a parent of neurodiverse individuals, and I also have my own disabilities. So I understand it from the professional, parent, and person perspective.
Wow, that really gives it some deep insight. You know, as a person myself that doesn't have neurodiversity, it's it's really interesting to me to meet with people who are neurodiverse and hear it from firsthand what they're going through and what their challenges are and expectations. Because as a health professional and a mom of a daughter with autism, I know there are a lot of parts of it that I understand, but I think it's one of those things where you can't necessarily fully understand it unless you're neurodivergent yourself. And so,
Exactly.
yeah, I love to hear people like you come on and tell me, hey, this is what it's like. So thank you so much for that. Can you tell us a little bit about the pros, like, I don't want to say pros and cons, but maybe some challenges that you've overcome to kind of get where you are today?
Um, a lot of it is I don't necessarily follow the rules. I don't necessarily follow the prescribed path. I've floated around in a lot of different areas in terms of my interest in education, in terms of my own personal needs, in terms of my communal needs, and really just my diverse experiences has helped me uh, learn about and work with a diverse population.
Awesome. Can you tell me what is one of the biggest things you see in IEPs that if you kind of read across any IEP that you kind of come across that are have that common strand? Like I know in physical therapy, from my experience, where most patients kind of have a similar strand of things like weakness and things like that. Can you have you noticed that with IEPs at all? Like there's particular strengths or weaknesses that you see often?
It depends on the severity. I work with more than just neurodiverse or autistic students and clients. So it really depends on the leveling, to use the word that I hate. It depends a lot on where the focus is. One thing I notice that is lacking in IEPs is that they don't look beyond academics. For the most significantly challenged and the most gifted individual, you still, even at school, need to look at social emotional. You need to look at future planning for money skills and financial literacy, living skills. Can they make their beds? Yes, that's a home skill, but it's also turns into an academic skill for many people. Looking at transportation, travel training. How are they going to do that? what's their level of independence, and really looking at what is needed for the whole person.
Hmm.
IEPs are linked entirely to the school, but the school can be doing a lot. And I feel, especially in the middle range where you have the high academics, oh, you don't need an IEP because you don't have academic, like your math skills are strong. Great. Their financial literacy skills?
Hmm.
Your reading skills are strong. Great. How's their job application reading skills or their
Hmm.
college application completion skills? Things like that. Outside the box thinking.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I love that we're looking past just the school function and into the life. I always tell people to make sure that you're looking ahead, even as your child is younger, look beyond. How is what we're doing now going to get them to being an independent and fulfilled adult? Even the little things, starting even with little kids. For example, my daughter had trouble manipulating the pencil to write as a small child. And that can translate into a lot of things. Think about what that is. That's fine motor control. Well, what do you need fine motor control for? Just about everything. Opening jars,
Typing.
um, typing, buttoning your clothes, tying your shoes. So many different layers of that. And so I always tell people you can find a way to take the skill that they need as an adult and break it down into pieces that will also apply to academics. So I think that's a really great way of looking at it is how does this fit into the bigger picture?
I also would say the self-advocacy and knowledge of their disability. I've
Mm,
met how many people who in eighth, ninth, 10th grade didn't know they were autistic, didn't know they had dyslexia. They knew they had trouble in XYZ, but they didn't know why. Power through information, even, for the quote, lower functioning folks, but especially for the higher functioning folks in the middle of the road,
right.
um, knowing the why of their life or the how it might impact, and that they're not the only one that mixes up their D's and B's is really important.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. What kind of difference have you seen in the child when they realize that, when they have that kind of aha moment where I'm not alone, I'm not the only one? What kind of changes do you see after that?
Depends on the child. Everything is very, very self or independently to the individual child. I do see a lot of, there's more purpose, I
Hmm.
find, with especially for the students that can communicate the best about their disability is I want to find people like me. It makes sense. Why don't I fit in? Why don't I like team sports? Well, I'm individualistic. Well, I need
Right.
quiet. Well, why do I need quiet? Because I have neurodivergence, or because I have hearing issues, or because I have whatever the disability is. It provides context so they can then find people like them and find environments. It gives them vocabulary to find environments that work best for them.
That's great. And I think too, being comfortable in their own skin. For my daughter, she would get so frustrated and she would say, I hate this. I hate autism. Why do I have to have this? Why can't it go away? And it's as a mom, it's hard. That's hard to just tell them it's just a
That's where
part of
you,
you, don't you're not defined by it. It's just part of who you are, like your brown hair, like your blue eyes, like anything like that. And it wasn't until she went to a training center for job training, she called me. She said, Mom, everyone here is like me.
exactly.
And
And finding that as early as possible,
yes.
especially like after puberty, like eighth, ninth, 10th grade is you know, what is in your community? What social opportunities, vocational opportunities,
Mhm.
academic opportunities for those that are interested that have similar profiles. And also, it's not just about the label. That's the balancing act is yes, they should know about the labels, especially by middle school, at middle school. But they should also know that, like you just said perfectly, the labels don't define. It gives context so that you can grow with it, not in spite of it. I'm half deaf. I wear hearing aids in both ears. Most people don't know that unless I tell them. But once I tell them, it makes sense why I'm staring at their mouth,
Right.
you know? So that's an example of it's a disability. I'm aware of it. I can speak of it, or I can choose not to. When do I share? Why do I share? And how do I share?
I think that comes in a lot, especially when the autistic teen is becoming an adult and they're ready to go out and get a job. Do I share it with my potential employer? Do I not share it? Because a lot of them feel like, oh, they're not going to hire me if they know. But at the same time, if they don't know, then you can't get accommodations or things that you need to function well in that environment. But I have seen it where it is difficult for them to get a position
Yeah.
because of that. So it's kind of a, you
That
know,
goes back, sorry for interrupting. That goes
no,
back
no,
to
go right on.
the how you share and why you share.
Hmm.
Saying you're autistic, well, as the saying goes, you meet one person with autism, you meet one person
One
without
person.
autism. That's the old saying. And that's true of almost every disability. You might meet one person with CP, you meet one person with CP. Um, and really, it's when you get to jobs or even university, it's like, why are you sharing? Is it that you're sharing, I'm autistic and every hour I need 5 minutes to myself of quiet?
Hmm.
That is a reason to share. That is a how they can be helpful. That's not ideally, assuming, proper boundaries, et cetera, legal ease. Uh, that's not going to get you not hired. If you say, I'm autistic and I need quiet time to regroup 5 minutes of every hour or whatever it is, um, that's just like I say when I start a job, I need closed captioning on every video, any video you want me to watch. I need closed captioning because I'm half deaf. That
Right,
is what I'm sharing is that I have a hearing disability. How you can help that or how we can work together is the closed captioning. So for autism, what do you need? Why does autism matter for the job? Is it that
right.
you need to sit down instead of stand up because otherwise you'll pace everywhere? You know, is it a fidget thing? Is it you need the calming time for um five, to use my example, I get overwhelmed. So at the end of every hour, I need 5 minutes to just pop off a little quiet and do some breathing.
Right.
It's the how and the why matters more than the what you're sharing.
I think that is very well said, and that's right on the head there. And I think employers need to hear that as well. Uh, um, so many employers now, they know autism's out there. They know autistic kids are growing up to be autistic adults, but they really are hesitant to have them in their workforce. And that's really a shame because
Because they
there's so
don't
many
know.
out there. Yeah, there's so many out there that they could be your secret weapon. It's an excellent business advantage, business strategy. I know a lot of the larger corporations like JP Morgan Chase started a program back in 2015, and now they have, I think, around 40 neurodivergent employees that have shared that they're neurodivergent, and that spreads across 9 countries. So it's not just a one person issue. That's definitely a global issue, and I love the way that you kind of put
But
that.
it's also true for school and college and university or trade school or trades. If you're a plumber, how does the autism affect your plumbing skills? It might, again, it's very noisy on those job sites. I've taught vocational before. Uh, it's very noisy on job sites.
Mhm.
How is that, do you need the headphones to mute things? Do you need things written out because you can't understand them when they're said? Those are things that high school teachers need to know. Yes, they can read their IEP, your IEP or their 504, but they're not going to remember. But when you're in fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth grade, yeah, the parent should be primary support and getting on the teachers. Once you hit 10th, 11th, 12th, it's on the student if they have that cognitive ability. I'm not talking the lowest function, I'm talking the middle and high. Because what's the top 5 things you need to know about me in your class? Give it to them every quarter. They're gonna forget. So,
Yeah.
have the student give a top 5 things you need to know about me in math class.
Oh, that's a really great idea. I
Or,
used to do it at
you
the
know,
beginning of the year, but I never thought to do it quarterly
yeah, you
because you
got it
feel
every
like,
time you have
okay,
a
I've given
report
it to
card.
them.
Every time you have a report card, because people don't remember,
Mm.
and they're not going to read the whole document and keep it in mind. So really and it's going to be different. Your math is very likely different than your history or your gym class. What do you need from gym class? People don't think about the electives, music. Music can get very loud. Even if you love it, what do you need to self-care in whatever disability you have? So at the middle of high school, 10th grade upward, and definitely in college or any sort of post-secondary schooling, this is where self-advocacy needs to be taught.
Oh, absolutely. Do you have certain strategies that you use to teach the self-advocacy pieces?
I do have a handbook. It's not mine. But it is called the 411 of disabilities. And basically, it goes through exactly what I just said. It's like, okay, look at your skills. What are your strongest? What are your weakness? Go ask 3 of your teachers. What do they see as your strongest and weakness? How do you put that together and form a plan for what moving forward? And then it goes into college, it goes into career, it goes into personal relationships, you know, dating. Yay, dating is so much fun.
Yay.
Um, you know, I read a story recently about someone who is, I don't know where they live, but someone who didn't have a date for prom. So he put a flyer up in his high school and said, "These are 5 things I'm interested in. Who wants to have dinner with me and go to prom with me?" And it worked
Oh, wow.
because he said, "This is who I am. Who's a friend?"
Yeah.
No relationship needed. Just I want a date. Other people probably want dates. Who likes these topics that I'm really fascinated about? We can chat, have dinner, you know.
That's a great idea. I love that. I love that.
And as I said, it worked. It worked. The teacher, one of the guidance counselors helped, but finesse a little bit of the who would be picked. But he
Mm.
put it up in his high school and he had a date to prom. They went to dinner at his mom's house and the 2 parents and the 2 kids, and they had a lovely time, from what I understand.
That's awesome. I love that. Thinking outside the box and how wonderful that that can create opportunities like that.
And this
So
is the
important.
student thinking, I have a problem. I don't have a date. I'm going to do this. Staff comes in to help support and guide, so you don't get picked on or bullied or whatever. But the end result is success.
Awesome. What do you feel is the biggest barrier as far as transitioning from high school to college?
Specifically, high school to college.
Yeah.
Um, there's a lot of fear out there. There's a lot of fear of the unknown, a fear of losing the entitlement that is K to 12 is entitlement. It's guaranteed. Anything after 12th grade or anything after you leave the school system
Hmm.
at whatever age that is, everything else is optional. And that unknown, you know, you can coast, parents can coast, students can coast until the day the bus stops coming,
Yeah.
you know? And it can be a culture shock even if you've prepped for it. And the uncertainty and the lack of knowledge of resources. Families don't know, high school staff don't know
Mhm.
what's really in your town, what's really in your county or state that can provide guidance. You know,
Mhm.
You're not the only one that's ever graduated with, XYZ disability.
Hmm.
There are agencies and organizations, usually free for you or very low cost for you, that
Hmm.
can provide a mentor or have quarterly, webinars that you and your parents can listen to on the next steps. The lack of information or lack of no, lack of knowing what you don't know and the fear that that
Right.
can cause.
Yeah. And then thinking you know it and coming to find out, no, I really don't know.
Or, best laid plans of mice and men.
There you
Whereas
go.
you can plan up to a certain point and then there's life. And for especially the neurodivergent community, that can
Mhm.
be really tricky because you can plan and you can do the executive functioning that you've been trained since you were 5, but it still might not
Right.
work.
And the question is, and then what?
Well, that's when having those agencies or those, community organizations or that mentor in your pocket comes in handy.
Do you find that you have an easier time getting accommodations from colleges, or is it easier in high school?
Depends what they are. It really depends what they are, what state you're in or city. I'll be honest,
Hmm.
this red and blue thing it really matters at the education level. If I can say that. Um, it really is. So in both cases, academic, most everyone's heard of academic. Everyone's heard of note takers. Everyone's heard of speech to text. Everyone's heard of extended time on tests. Those are pretty much blanket these days.
Hmm.
Um, what's not is the softer, the needing time to go in for the high school, time to go in the hallway before or at, taking 5 minutes when you have a 2-minute passing bell, getting that accommodation, getting things written when this teacher only speaks lectures, but
Hmm.
getting it written in advance so you can follow along, which is different than note taking. Following along is different than note taking.
Yeah.
Um, in college, it's the seating, because usually most colleges don't have assigned seating. High schools do, colleges don't. So ensuring that you have a front row seat or
Hmm.
a always to the right if you have hearing in one side or whatever it is, and talking with the teacher about that. Other things are for the college side is residential. What do you need to be successful? Goes back to the living skills. Transportation, how are you getting to and from school? If you're
Hmm.
staying on campus, how are you getting across campus? What timing do you need? If the routine is that every freshman takes, 4 classes on the same day, some colleges might have that. Not everyone can do that. Accommodations to only take 3 classes on the same day.
Right.
Or housing. If you're residential, resident dorm, not everyone can deal with a roommate. College is weird enough as it is.
Mm.
So that's an accommodation to discuss with your disability office is do you need a one roommate or a zero roommate? And getting especially at those, 50,000 student colleges, a freshman getting a solo room, highly unusual. But
Right.
if that's what you're needed to succeed, that's what you need to succeed. So I find the soft skills, aren't taught especially for the college and higher cognitive abilities
Hmm.
and aren't provided for.
Mm. That is so true. So true. I love that there are people out there though that are trying to help with that and bridge that and really help. A lot of it is just educating people what's
Exactly.
out there, how to find it, how to utilize it. Um, the three pillars that I have are educate, empower, and elevate. And
Nice.
it's kind of when you do one, it leads to the next, which leads to the next, and then see if you educate them, that's going to empower them, and that'll help elevate them, and that's the goal, just to have them be that independent, confident person and know when to ask for help and where to ask for help, and then actually following through on that. So definitely, definitely needed desperately, I think. No,
I I can see benefit in all three of those. I really like those. That is the three E's. I like that because it does make sense. You don't know what you don't know, and once you know it, you're either empowered or at least you're educated.
right, exactly.
And
I
even
think
if you don't feel empowered, you know you're empowered by knowledge, and then you can choose whether to use it. Someone growing up that I grew up with was like choice through knowledge. You know, once you know something, you can choose whether or not to use it, but you have to
absolutely.
know it first.
And what's that saying? You don't know what you don't know till you know it.
Exactly. Exactly.
There's so many things out there where I always believe that whoever I meet, whoever I run into, has something they can teach me,
I
and I
like
have
that.
something that I can teach them. I've always believed that, whether it was my therapy job or in my life with my daughter. I think networking is so important. That's one of the reasons I love volunteer work so much, especially for your teenagers on the spectrum, getting them out there, getting them used to being in a different environment where they have certain responsibilities, showing up on time, maintaining your schedule, making sure you have transportation. Kind of that's where you can teach those life and job skills without it feeling like, oh, they're trying to teach me something.
Yeah,
But it can
it's
be fun, and yeah, it can be fun, and it can be, uh, and just I'm a huge proponent of that.
yes. I all I can say is yes. All I can say is yes.
So you said that you would recommend, at least by middle school, people knowing their diagnosis and trying to start to learn self-advocacy.
I would say during middle school. It really, this is individual is an individual is an individual thing.
Right.
Um, some folks I know, they learn in third and fourth grade and they want to attend their IEPs in fourth and fifth grade, which is unusual. Um, definitely seventh, most definitely eighth. I know the federal requirement is age 16, which is already in high school, to attend
Hmm.
IEPs. I know Massachusetts has the rule of 14 on their IEP plans. I
Hmm.
highly recommend eighth grade as the starting year, even if they don't say much. The three questions my son answers are what you liked about the school about this year, what you didn't like about this year, and what's one thing you want to learn next year.
Mm.
You know, he's he's younger, he's just now getting into the middle school age. That's where
Hmm.
he is, because that's what his contribution can be.
Right.
Um, in the eighth grade, it's really where do you see yourself? The Americans don't look more than a year out for school. And that's very unusual compared to Europe and other countries. It's
Mhm.
really where and what do you want to be doing? You know,
Yeah. And then the question becomes, how can I help you get there?
how can the school, yes, well, the IEP is how can the school support those plans? And that's written right into the IEP is, this is the student vision, this is the parent vision. Now it's the school's plan to address those visions.
Mhm. I've seen a
And
lot of IEPs that have very vague goals. They don't have a lot of measurable
well, there's
things
goals and
in
then there's
it.
vision. Which one are you talking about?
I'm talking about the goals, like student
Okay.
will do whatever X number of times.
Yes. So after you get to the vision, you look at the accommodations and modifications of what's needed, and then you look at the goals and the benchmarks around the goals. And this gets dicey because teachers like to think that they know how to write an objective. Goals don't necessarily need to be as measurable as the benchmarks or the objectives.
Mhm.
Um, The goal is the overarching by the end of the year or by the end of the IEP cycle, because not all of them start in September, not all of them end in the following September. By the end of the IEP cycle, this is what she can do now, and this is what she should be able, could be able to do by the end of the IEP cycle. Benchmarks is what needs to be as measurable and as objective, not subjective, as possible. It should focus on one skill. I don't like and in an objective. And can be in the term and can be in a goal. You know, Susie will be able to cross the street, press the button and cross the street independently. That's a great goal. That's about four different objectives. We'll be able to find the push button on the corner. Yes or no?
Hmm.
We'll be able to press the push button and know to only press it once. That's
Some
that's an objective because a lot of kids like to go bang, 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 bang. You know,
adults
well,
do that too, I think.
this is true. Uh, we'll be able to wait without fidgeting, or not even without fidgeting. While paying attention to the walk sign, we'll be able to wait until it turns the correct one. We'll be able to cross within the white lines in the time allowed.
And check for traffic that's not stopping.
Well, this is why we use the crosswalk locations. But yes, um, so that's the goal can be an and can be general. We'll be able to press the button, at the crosswalk and cross the street. The objectives are the one step or back chaining.
Excellent. So if you were to give parents one piece of advice, if you only had one, what would you say?
About what?
IEPs and school, if they're thinking about next school year, what advice would you give them?
So, three different that all apply to the same advice. For eighth graders, if your IEP if your IEP meeting was before March, have another meeting before the end of the year. Because eighth to ninth, you might need to change things. If you have a November, December, even January IEP, have another meeting. Review it, make sure it matches where his next or her next placement will be in high school. That's the first one. For ninth graders, ninth and 10th for that matter, if you have a late year IEP, okay, so if you have a April, May, June, depending on your district or state IEP, have another one in the beginning of the year. I don't like annual meetings. I like annual meetings for the purpose of annual meetings. I like review meetings at the end or beginning. And in the 11th grade, 12th grade matters much less. I'll be completely honest, because you're out of there. 11th grade, like, make sure your accommodations. Have the meeting before you sign up for AP or SAT or ACT or whatever those things are. Make sure the school
Mhm.
knows to give you the accommodations there.
All right. Well, thank you so much. That is really, really strong advice. I appreciate you coming here today. If somebody wanted to reach out to you, how can they get in contact with you?
Sure. You can check my website, which is Cochran IEP Consulting. So Cochran IEP Consulting.com. Or email is great too. It is Cochran IEP Consulting at gmail.com. Again, Cochran IEP Consulting at gmail.com.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Vicki. I think you really hit on some important points. And I know that's towards the end of the school year when we're recording, and a lot of times parents can kind of, oh, school's done and we can take a break and breathe.
Nope.
Uh, but it is so important to look ahead, keep your eye on the prize. Where are we going? Where are we headed? How can I get there? And make sure you don't let off the gas, that you really have that intentional strategic plan going so that you're not just throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks because your child's future is too important. As parents, we only get one chance to raise our child. We need to make sure we're giving them 100% effort 24/7, 365. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
On the next episode of Puzzled Parents.
Thank you.